Bat Force Radio.
Bat Force Radio is rated M for mature, or should that be immature?
Hey guys, Dustin Nguyen.
Hey, this is Scott Snyder.
This is Paul Dini.
And you're listening to Bat Force Radio.
And you're listening to Bat Force Radio.
You're listening to Bat Force Radio.
This is Tom King. I write Batman Bitch, and this is Bat Force Radio.
All right, welcome back to Bat Force Radio, the Batman/DC podcast with no limits. We got a little mini stack episode covering the hot book of the week, which is Batman Curse of the White Knight. I got Robin Cross up in Canada.
Heidi-ho.
Yeah, let's get into Batman Curse of the White Knight, Book 7, and the really careful handling of Harley Quinn by Sean Murphy. Even though she's not in it as much as I thought she was going to be, in general, the Murphyverse is alive and strong. You got your file open, or you already know? Oh, you got the physical copy, right?
Yeah, I do have it here if I need to refer to it. But. Yeah,
because it's it was really cool how it opened up when Bruce, as a child, saw the sword on the wall. Then Alfred lets him. He takes it off the mount.
The interesting thing, this is one of the things that Sean does so well through all of the relationships through White Knight. He's done a good job of what this particular scene is showing is Bruce didn't want to go to his parents' funeral, and when Alfred starts speaking to him, he finds out that Bruce is feeling guilty that he was the one that wanted to go see the Zorro movie because he wanted to learn how to fight like Zorro.
Yeah.
So Alfred tells him, "Well, if you'll be brave enough to go to your parents' funeral, when we get back, I'll teach you how to fight like Zorro, and the next time something like this happens, you'll know exactly what to do." Because Bruce was left feeling that it was his fault and he wasn't able to protect them.
Nice little throwback because Alfred dies in the Murphyverse, but then you see these flashbacks of Alfred, and he's just like, "Jay, yes, just like Zorro," and picks him up and carries him away. It's flash forward to him looking at the same sword on the wall, and then Harley's with him, and they're talking. And Bruce is pretty torn. Oh shit! Hold on, the cops.
We heard that shit you said about Palmiotti's Harley.
Yeah, open up. Yeah, Bruce is pretty torn thinking about how he's decoded that he's actually not a Wayne. But Harley knew all along of the whole Edmund Wayne thing, but didn't want to tell Bruce because she knew how much it would upset him. Man, I can never get over how well Sean Murphy draws Harley. Even the little black and red classic Harley robe that she wears with the glasses. No stupid hair coloring in her hair. I always love it. And this is such a nod to way back even in the animated series when Harley and Bruce teamed up. You remember those episodes?
Yeah.
And it's such a nice nod to it. And
it works perfectly because Sean's the quote Murphyverse is so based in the animated series universe, and it uses a lot of the history that was there and builds on that, but in a more maybe adult, a more mature sort of setting.
I know, and when you treat even a character like Harley Quinn like that, without overdoing all the shtick, she just becomes so much more interesting and a great nod to her original intention. And Bruce and her did have this really interesting relationship, even back when she first started the animated series and they teamed up. And I always thought that was interesting, even from the get-go. But here you could really see it where, Bruce is just down and out, and he's talking about how he's going to just destroy everything and have nothing left. And, Harley goes on to say that you still have your friends, and then she says, you still have me. And it was just like this sweet, I don't know, it's a sweet moment because it's just showing you all the different sides of her, even as a supporting character for the man who the love of her life has been wanting to kill or fight this whole time. So
yeah, and all through White Knight, going back to the first series, we've seen this side of their relationship and the references to that. They always had this understanding between the two of them.
Yeah.
And that Bruce maybe sort of took it easy on her because he knew that as much as anything, she was keeping Joker under control and keeping him from doing the worst things that he wanted to do.
Right. Yeah. Only she could do something like that. And, for the clown prince of crime, one of the greatest villains of all time in comic book history, and she's pretty much the only dam that could support that, pressure of water known as the madness of the Joker. So this is how you handle Harley Quinn. This is,
and
like
then you have this thing based on all of that, all that history that's referenced. The result is you see this relationship that they have built between the two of them that is now, maybe it looks like it could turn into something more, because Bruce is obviously at arguably the lowest point of his life since his parents died. He's lost Alfred.
I would love that, because let's face it, he probably bangs Zatanna. He slept with Batgirl. I'm pretty sure he messed around with Poison Ivy. He knocked up Catwoman. You might as well just do it with your arch nemesis's girl, ex-girl. Like, it's just.
And if he's gonna do that with her, then why wouldn't it be the most?
Don't forget Wonder Woman as well.
Yeah.
For Justice League Unlimited, fellas.
If there's going to be a Bruce and Harleen thing, then it's cool that it's happening with the most matured and sophisticated version of Harleen.
I could definitely get behind that, and that's that would be really interesting. And they really need to. McFarlane Toys really needs to make the White Knight Harley Quinn figure as well, because we just recently announced was the Batman White Knight figure, the White Knight Azrael figure, and the White Knight Joker GTO figure, which look amazing.
With the interchangeable Jack Napier head.
Yeah, really cool. I think they really nailed his artwork well in those sculpts. Was that who sculpted those? Was that Paul Harding, or one of the other guys? Possibly.
I'm not even. Yeah, it might be, but I'm not even sure who sculpted those. Now you mention it. This is kind of off topic, but because we were talking about issue, are we going to go through the whole issue, or are we just
we're
getting
going to bang out this issue real quick. It's not
cool.
Because it's White Knight, and White Knight rules. It's just. I mean, that Azrael suit that we see in this next panel is just. That's so odd. We need a figure of that as well. Shout out to Sean Murphy, never cutting corners when it comes to artwork. But Azrael is or Jean Paul is having a hard time. I think he needs medication. There's meds. He's
dying, right? He has cancer. He's on his way out.
Yeah, and then you got Barbara Gordon in this recovery center or the hospital on crutches, and she's talking to Bruce, and he's being as apologetic as usual, and he's having a hard time dealing with the fact that he's, I guess, not a Wayne and knows how he has to go about things now, And
this is where he's revealing to Barbara what he's decided to do, and that's what he has to do to fix Gotham now that he knows that he's not only that his company is a part of this corruption that's been hurting the city, but also that he was never even a real Wayne to begin with. So now he's revealing to Barbara that what he feels he has to do to actually help the city is for Batman to be no more and for him to reveal his identity.
Yep, kind of a callback to Arkham Knight. Remember playing that game and they find out it's Bruce Wayne, and you hear all the thugs on the radio like, Bruce Wayne, that rich boy.
It's a lot of the small things in that game after his identity is revealed. Just if you play it long enough, you can hear so many funny little things from different characters. Like you'll hear thugs talking. Here comes Bruce, man. He's gonna get me in his Bruce mobile.
Dude, I remember when they were like, yeah, the boss, he's with Harley Quinn, that crazy bitch. I love the banter between the thugs in the game. But,
and have you played through the game more than once?
Yeah, but it's been a while. I can't really remember all of those.
If you do the side quests, like taking in, Two-Face, Penguin, etc.
I've done all those,
Yeah, So if you take them in, you'll get different conversations with them when you have them in
when
the
they're
car and you
locked
drive
up.
them to
Yeah.
well, like when you're on the drive, they'll have different conversations with you depending if you've taken them in before or after Bruce's identity is revealed.
Oh, okay. Despite its flaws, it was a pretty good game. It was pretty cool. Like, it had some really good moments in that game.
Yeah, and I always thought that if that story had played out in a comic, that would blow people's minds in the comic world.
Well, the first
because
half
the
was
events
pretty
that
good.
happen. Well, I like the whole story. I don't think there's anything wrong with the story at all. I think the only stumbling point that people had is how much the car was part of the story, and all the boss battles were tank battles,
and how Bruce beat some kind of disease just by outthinking it or something. I don't know.
Well, no. What ended up fixing the toxin that was put out by the Cloudburst was Ivy. And that's another thing that would be huge in the comics is Ivy sacrificing her life to save the city.
Ivy was actually amazing in that game. When she died, it kind of went south for me, but it was pretty good.
It's a Tasia Valenza kicking ass there.
But going back to White Knight, when he puts Bats pretty much reveals his identity to the city, and he's pretty much talking about how when he started it was just battling low-level crime, and now it's like monsters and supervillains, and how he just wants to make things right. So he asked the people of Gotham to get off the streets so the GTO and Bats can pretty much track down Azrael and fight. And this is pretty cool because this is something I didn't see coming, but basically Bruce's designated Batmobile for this mission is the 89 Batmobile.
Yeah.
And let me tell you, Sean Murphy uses this Batmobile in comic book form to its full potential. He is just drawing it from every angle, and everything is technically accurate about the 89 Batmobile. And it's kind of weird because it really hits home when it's like it's the 89 Batmobile, but it's not Michael Keaton Batman. It's kind of a mind warp now because it's you start to get used to this imagery, and
those references to how old it is because of
Azrael's suit is such a high tech suit. It's like, how is this thing that's decades old gonna?
And so you have Bruce walking the GTO into where it is and saying, "This one's always been my favorite." And she says, "That thing's decades old. Are you nuts?" And then he hops in and says, "Let's get nuts." It's so good.
And it sounds like he's gonna kill him too, because Nightwing's asking him, like, "What are you gonna do?" He's like, "Gonna fucking kill him." I love that. And then when that thing takes off, I want to see this in animated form now because it just looks so badass. Which reminds me, actually, the other day I watched about the Blu-ray. I watched Heavy Metal, which is based on the magazine. It was the animated anthology that came out in 1981, and it was like, really a big deal back then because of all these different teams of animators, and it was really gritty and whatnot. And actually, these scenes with the Batmobile flying through Gotham reminds me of like one of the first sequences in Heavy Metal when he's riding through like old, dystopian New York, and it's color palettes and whatnot. It was kind of, I don't know, kind of made a little connection there, but it was really cool.
Yeah.
What's up?
Sorry, go ahead.
No, I was just gonna say it was really cool because of the dramatic red light that he uses for Gotham City. It has that, to me, it has that old feel, like that old gritty feel, like the 80s, 90s animation and whatnot. Because he did say he wanted to mute his colors. This is all by design with Sean, so I think it's very effective. Like when he pulls over in front of what's supposed to be Times Square in Gotham.
Yeah.
And he's just
That's the part I was going to talk about. It's like Gotham at sunset.
Yeah.
And what I was sort of feeling here is, because it's been muted, and like going back to the first White Knight series, remember we talked about with Sean, I think it was the first time he was on the show, how he was only using red well, he was only having Matt Hollingsworth use red on pages that Harley was on.
All right.
And everything does stay muted. We don't see a lot of oranges and reds, but what I got the feeling of coming into the end of this issue is it feels like the color is coming in because it's approaching the climax of the story here. Because as of the end of this issue, there's only one book left.
Yeah, there's definitely it's a lot of red, and that's by design. But when he's standing next to that '89 Batmobile and just staring at the big screen, it just looks so badass. It's like, because you always look at that and say it's Michael Keaton, but now it's not, and I can't get over it. It's just so cool.
And that shot of not Michael Keaton Batman standing cowlless
it's
in
badass.
The Gotham equivalent of Times Square as the sun sets. Yeah.
Great freaking bat suit. And it's like he has like some kind of chaps on or something. I don't know.
Although the big boots. Yeah. That's one thing that Sean has gotten a little bit of flack for from some people, or people saying some people don't like the knee highs.
I like the creative liberties he takes and chances. I mean, normally I'm not a big fan of Batman revealing his identity. I feel like he just does it a lot now as opposed to how it used to be. But if it's intertwined with a good story, then it's if you can make it work, then you kind of forget about the gripes you have with it, and you're like, okay, I'm along for this ride.
And considering that part of it in this story is stemming from something that no one has done before. Like, as far as I can remember, no one has ever slapped us in the face with Bruce isn't even a Wayne.
Yeah.
And so, but I don't think I'm going out on too much of a limb here. What are the odds that the final battle between Bruce and Jean Paul Valley happens with Bruce using his dad's sword?
That's a
there has to be some more of Bruce using that sword coming up.
Well,
because Sean had his own sword custom made as a drawing reference.
Yeah.
And we saw that photo of him holding it himself, which I assume was a reference photo.
We do have some preview pages as well, and there's one where I think Nightwing's talking to Bruce outside of the Batmobile, and he's holding what appears to be a gun, a rifle, and you also have Harley back at home with the kids. Some really cool images. Oh yeah, because in that preview page, he did take the sword off the mount, so because Harley discovers that. So yeah, I guess that's what you're getting at. That'd be really cool. That's very Cavalier-ish. I don't know if you ever read the Cavalier story in the Legends of the Dark Knight run. I think Tim Sale might have.
Oh
done
yeah,
that.
yeah.
But that's a nice little throwback to that as well. But Sean Murphy does. I think he is into swords and all those old weapons as well. So this is a very exciting. Actually, with the preview pages, you could tell that the conclusion of the Curse of the White Knight is going to be just as action packed as we expect from Sean Murphy. You could see the Gatling guns pop out of the '89 Batmobile. I mean, he did not waste any detail when it came to doing the '89 Batmobile justice. So I'm excited to see another action driven scene in the conclusion of this book, and excited for the third chapter in the Murphyverse. But what I really wanted to use this platform for in terms of discussion was how Harley Quinn is handled by Sean Murphy, as well as bringing in the creator of the Harleen book on Black Label. What's the guy's name?
I don't know if I say it correctly at all, but I think it's something along the lines of Stepan Sejic.
Right, yeah, that sounds about right. So, these are just two really strong examples. I mean, I even liked Harley in Azzarello's universe with Joker and Damned, but, it's just the handling of the character, which I'm always big on, because, over time when you read a lot of comic books, the integrity of the characters you love are important to you, and you learn how to deal with things when certain creators you feel don't do them justice. And why I'm getting to this is because of the whole discussion over time the past couple of weeks about why the movie Birds of Prey didn't do well, and how there's all these different excuses or speculation or whatnot. And many people agree that what the real reason why this or any movie won't be successful at the box office is lack of interest. So it's like, well, why is there a lack of interest in a movie? Well, the main core reason for this one would be because people don't really recognize the characters that they've grown to love in comic books and the source material, mainly Harley Quinn. Jimmy Palmiotti, who's been doing the Harley Quinn run for quite some time now, has been pushing the case that, well, it is based on the source material. And there have been people calling that out, saying, well, but it's not good source material, that his version of Harley Quinn is not true to the great, fun, foundational core of the Harley Quinn that we all know and love from the past. You know, someone that's not an idiot, that doesn't have bells around the neck or blue and pink in her hair, but somebody who is handled in the way that, say, she, you know, like the book Harleen, or in this case, White Knight, where it's just the creators that capture the essence of a certain comic book character. If that's applied to a movie, then there's going to be a lot more interest in it. So that's been a huge topic recently that I've become quite interested in, because it's people like Sean Murphy who give me a little glimpse of faith in terms of still being able to enjoy certain characters. It's like when you see his version of Harley Quinn, I'm like, I've missed you, Pudding. You know, like that's
and
that's how you do it.
And he directly addressed in the beginning of the first White Knight volume the difference between New Harley Quinn and classic Harley Quinn. You know, the first one we saw in White Knight was the, you know, sort of Suicide Squad looking, the Margot Robbie style Harley, until the other one showed up and kicked her in the face.
Love that.
And that was when we found out, you know, that in this universe, Harleen Quinzel had walked away from Joker, and he replaced her with Marion Drews, who became the new Harley. And yeah, that just became a cool device for showing the difference, and a great way to give us a story that was the classic Harley Quinn, while also addressing that there exists this newer iteration of her.
Yeah, definitely. And luckily, I don't want to use Birds of Prey as an example, but luckily Harley is one of the few characters that have really been that butchered and exploited. You know, like everyone else, as far as the comic books continuity, even, you know, you think about like Catwoman or Ivy or whoever, it's been pretty okay. But for the record, me and you, we are gonna review the Harley Quinn animated series sometime in the near future, because yeah, I definitely want to go over that, because I think that's really interesting as well. It's supposed to be good.
Yeah, we'll do it.
But yeah, that's I you know, and to segue even further into that, we have a new character who a lot of speculation, a lot of people out there are saying, oh, it's the new Harley's replacement, blah blah blah. But supposedly, it is Joker's new sidekick, helper, girlfriend, whoever. This girl Punchline.
Yeah.
And you've read the book that's coming out this week, right?
Yeah. So as of this point, we had in James Tynion's previous issue of Batman, we had 2 panels that gave us partial views of her. So, you know, that became sort of a cameo issue, and the world went crazy. That issue sold out everywhere. Was already gone to second print by the time it went on sale. And as of tomorrow, issue 3 of Year of the Villain, Hell Arisen, the miniseries that James Tynion's doing, that sort of stems a lot out of the Justice League series that Scott Snyder and James Tynion have just finished. So this is all coming to a head with sort of a Joker versus Lex battle for sort of the world thing, but it's bringing in a lot of different threads from stories that have been going on. We just had Josh Williamson do his story in Batman Who Laughs, in Batman Superman with the Batman Who Laughs, having infected all of these other heroes. So that story comes into this one too. So the Batman Who Laughs is facing off against Lex, but also Joker's against Lex. They're all sort of vying for their own ends. So this issue gives us also a brief look again at Punchline, but we, for the first time within the context of an issue, see a full body shot of her. So the content we get of her here is after Joker rescues Lex from where he was imprisoned. When they arrive where Joker was bringing him, we see that Punchline is holding Lex's longtime assistant / sometimes head of security / whatever, Mercy. So Punchline is holding her, I believe, with a knife to her throat.
Oh shit!
And that's the next taste that we get of Punchline, and it comes and goes. So we got a brief look at her.
Was Mercy's Asian, right?
Sometimes.
Yeah.
Not always. She was Asian in of some Asian descent in Dawn of Justice. We had a little bit of her in Lex's place there, and then she ends up getting blowed up by Lex. She was in she goes all the way back to Justice League United, and maybe in the comics before that. I don't remember if she started in Justice League United, but she was also in. There was a different iteration of her in the DC streaming service Titans show.
Oh yeah, sometimes she looks a little white as well. I was curious. I was asking because I think Punchline looks kind of Asian.
Oh yeah. She could, but it could also be the makeup.
Yeah.
But in one of the upcoming issues of Batman, I think it's an issue that James is doing with Jorge Jimenez. We'll get her backstory, her whole origin.
Has this new book sold out already? Like.
Oh fuck yeah!
What do you think?
It was sold out a couple weeks ago. Well,
and the 89 hype as well. It's insane.
They were both hit by the same thing. There was a lot of publicity around the fact that, well, this is a new appearance of a first character, so it inevitably brings out the people who are just looking to cash in. The people that want to cruise into a comic shop, oftentimes a shop that they have either never walked into before or haven't walked into since the last time there was something they were hoping to cash in on.
Yeah, I have mixed feelings about that because seeing opportunities to hype beasts, it sucks. But at the same time, it's still cool to see this much hype and activity around comic books. You know what I mean? Like, I like that there's still this much interest in comic books where it's just everyone's going nuts. It's
nice for this interest to peak like this if the result is that some of those people who were drawn in by it stick around and give the medium more of a chance. So I'm sure there have to be some people that stick around. Not everybody is one of those a-holes that walks into a shop the first time just hoping to scoop some copies that they can flog on eBay.
Yeah, I mean, there's always going to be an opportunist, but still people are talking about comic books. There's so many people. Another good example is the Batman Who Laughs, who he's a comic book character, but he's blown up across mediums. Like, they had to get a skin of the Batman Who Laughs in Mortal Kombat, and now all the gamers are talking about and interested in the Batman Who Laughs and his backstory and all that stuff. So it's always good to see. I think it's good to see things that come out that interest people into inquiring about comics. Going to a local comic book store, asking questions, maybe buying a few or whatever. I think that's always good for comics.
Yeah, and anything that draws new people in is bound to hold on to some of them.
Yeah.
So in the end, it's a good. And as long as there are some people who aren't getting into it for the wrong reasons, we're talking about the hype end of this and the people that are coming into it just because of the hype factor and the perceived opportunity to make a buck on it. But the thing that has me more interested in what James is doing here is just that I read his newsletter. James has, if you click on his bio on his Instagram, his Twitter, or anything, you can sign up for his email list.
Oh, is it bi-monthly?
Monthly, bi-monthly, one of the two, or it might just be whenever he has the feels the need to send something out.
Yeah.
The most recent one, so he starts off with analyzing sort of the majority of people that would call themselves comic readers, and he analyzes how, well, most of these people who call themselves comic readers are probably not those people that are every single week in their local comic shop picking up their books. You know, like the majority of people, like that's probably a minority of comic readers are the ones that are diehards that are in the shops every week or two to pick up their new books. But the majority of people who would call themselves comic readers are more likely those people who have in their house just one section of nerd stuff, and maybe one shelf on a bookcase is their collection of trade paperbacks and graphic novels. And he, goes on to propose that those collections are, in most cases, probably made up of a lot of the perennial mainstays. So these people are probably going to own things like V for Vendetta, Watchmen, Dark Knight Returns, and then maybe some of the newer things like Saga, Why the Last Man, maybe Walking Dead. And that most people who have purchased comics would have this small dedicated section for their comic collection, and that is their comic collection. And that they probably aren't too quick to buy anything new to add into that, because that's their dedicated space for it. And he goes on to explain what he thinks it would take for someone to earn a place on that limited shelf space, to get your book in with those mainstays. And he explains that what he is trying to do in this story, because what we're seeing a lot of it is just the hype of a new character, because Punchline shows up, the designer is part of the bigger part of this story, and he's introducing new characters and new tech for Batman, and we have Lucius running Alfred's position. But what he is trying to do is he's supposing that what it takes to earn a place in these people's collections is to not just rehash what other people have done, not just retelling the story that's been told by other people over the decades, just telling it with your own version of it. What he thinks it will take to earn your place on the shelves of these more average comic readers is to tell something that hasn't been told before. And he goes on to explain how what he's trying to do with a character like Punchline is that the goal is not for her to be the new Harley Quinn. He's not saying, well, Harley's moved on and does her own thing now. She's a solo character, so Joker needs a new Harley. That's not what he's after. And as we're going to see as she plays out more in the stories, is just how different from that she is. And she's not just a replacement Harley character for Joker to have now. And I think that's the core of what he's trying to do with all this, is just not giving us rehashes of things we've had before, and just reading the passion that he has for doing something new, giving us something different, is what has me most interested in what's coming up in the story.
Very interesting.
But I think everybody needs look at the things that are the most successful. White Knight, we just finished talking about, is not a rehash of things that have been done before. There are all these new things that had never been done, and it's been successful as hell.
Mm. Well,
And
I
so it's
think
every time that someone goes out on a limb and does something fresh and new, it has that potential to be something that gain notoriety.
Well, I think you need to have the people who are trying to push the envelope, like Scott Snyder, people like that, Sean Murphy,
Yeah.
past Frank Miller, doing things, taking chances, and trying to put. And then I think you also need people like I think Tynion is actually one of them, to be honest with you, and Tomasi, and who write the crowd pleasers. They're not trying to do anything mind blowing, but they just want to write consistent good stories. You know what I mean? Like Tomasi, Batman and Robin run, just consistent good storytelling, not trying
New
to do anything
52 is
crazy.
outstanding.
Yeah, I mean, and the stuff that in there is that's great, like Hellbat stuff, and also, but what I mean is people who are more interested in telling good stories as opposed to trying to do, write the next classic. I think you should have some people that are trying to push the envelope, and some people are just doing the monthly crowd please. Like, for example, Detective Comics 1020 is fantastic. It's Ugly Heart. That's what it's called. It's a Two-Face story by Tomasi with excellent artwork by Brad Walker. Highly recommend to pick that one up. That's what a crowd pleaser is. You could pick it up, read it, be like, damn, this art's good. This is a badass Two-Face story. That's and that's hitting the shelves this week too. So that's how we had Brad Walker on the show. Didn't we?
Yeah. Brad Walker was on last year when his first arc was coming up on Detective. So yeah, if you like Brad's art as much as you should, reading this issue, go back through the episodes and check out his appearance.
It is really good. Oh man, Detective Comics 1020. Oof, Tomasi.
Yeah, Tomasi is one of those guys that, man, just you can pick up anything he's written and know that it's going to be consistently good stuff.
Yeah, just consistently good, crowd pleasing, solid, classic, Batman storytelling. He's really good at doing Batman. He's a guy who could write like animated series stories. He's just that guy
for sure,
who could churn out a bunch of self-contained Batman stories, and you won't be disappointed. They'll just be good. So, and good shit for good comics.
I know that's something you've been mentioning lately, is that you want the animated series to come back.
Yeah, we're gonna do a topic discussion on an upcoming episode soon about reasons why they need to bring Batman the Animated Series back, because there's a lot of them, and I could think of very little reason why they shouldn't be doing it at this point. I mean, with all the other stuff we're getting that might be lackluster. I know some people love stuff like you have your CW shows, you have your Gotham shows, you have all this stuff that so much money's poured into. If you were to take a piece of that funding and throw it in Warner Brothers Animation, you could just it'll be a good episode where we discuss.
They could throw that up on HBO Max with the Snyder Cut.
Yeah, which who knows, man? People might get what they want. It's anything. Hey, man, like I said, I hope the trend continues where what they did with Sonic the Hedgehog was absolutely fantastic. Where they released the trailer, I think it was like give or take a year ago, and Sonic just looked kind of fucking weird, and there was backlash, but the studio actually went back, and I mean, maybe it was one of those situations where like, well, we gotta fix it or we're fucked, but at the same time, the studio did go back and make the necessary changes, and the end result was a great movie that all across the board, everyone is just loving to death. It's just a great.
Yeah, rather than having people say, "Well, it was good, but Sonic still looks fucking creepy."
Yeah, and based on that movie's success, we might see a trend where there's going to be some turnarounds with a lot of movies coming up if they feel like the initial viewing of the trailer, whatever, is not, if they're not getting the reception that they want. So.
I hope it doesn't end up being a trend like those in the 90s when they were making all the live action movies, video games, and we got things like Double Dragon and Street
Street
Fighter.
Fighter, yeah, and even Mortal Kombat, which people still love, but it's just
Yeah.
it's hard to do those kind of video games. But I think it's really important. I mean, you gotta listen to the fans. You gotta listen to the people who support the source material, grew up on the stuff. Because when you look at examples like Birds of Prey, it's people just weren't interested. The representation of the characters in that movie it's visually were just so far from, like, nobody recognized them, and I think that is one of the key reasons why it really bombed hard. And I can't say I'm losing sleep over that, because if it was successful, we would get more of it. But I think what we really want is more comic accurate stuff. See, whoever the suits are, or whoever it was that made all these decisions, they really need to realize that even though you think you're marketing to a specific audience, like a millennial hot topic audience, whatever it may be, it doesn't necessarily work like that. Whereas if you were to really apply the source material well in a movie, this crowd that you're trying to market to would definitely still come and see it. Why do you think there's interest in these characters to begin with? Because of the integrity with them in the source material, because of how they look and act and how they were originally intended to be, not because you wanted to make it a Hot Topic Rihanna music video and think it's going to sell tickets. So
Yeah, and there's obviously there has been a market for this new age sort of Harley. In the New 52, when Jimmy Palmiotti and Amanda Conner started their Harley run, there was a huge level of excitement for that. I remember how excited people were. I was excited for it. I bought I had it on my file months before it came out. Bought the first issue. Bought the variant cover, that awesome Adam Hughes variant cover.
yeah,
And for a while, that series was doing really well.
Yeah.
Until it wasn't. Like, for a long time, it was a top 10 seller, top 10, 15 on the charts. But by the time it ended, we could see how this newer take on Harley didn't have the longevity. By the end of their run, by the time they switched off and the new creative team came on, I don't remember for sure. I haven't looked this up, so I'm just going from memory from the time. I think by the time their run ended, it had fallen to like a top 40 book.
Yeah.
And I think that shows us sort of the same thing. What people maybe want to see in a live action Harley is the one that they have loved since the 90s, the classic Harley. We have yet to get that on the screen.
I know, and they need to just do it well, because it's, the visual representation of these characters is a key. It's a really important thing when it comes to how well people respond to how they gravitate towards wanting to, consume movies or animation or comic books, whatever it may be. Thing is, with Harley Quinn or Jester Harley, when done right, it's really interesting, especially with her personality. But when you take the mask off, put blue and pink in her hair, and put bells around her neck, she goes from looking like an interesting comic book villain in Gotham to any other kid going to Hot Topic. You know what I mean? It's just it changed. Like, when I see the new issues coming out for I think it's Batman 90, and I see the Riddler, Catwoman, Penguin, and then I see Harley with the pink and blue hair and the bells. It's like it looks like a kid, as opposed to a mastermind criminal, ex-girlfriend of the Joker. It's like,
and I'll give them this. They did make an effort to give some recognizable things. Like, one of the looks they used for Harley in the Birds of Prey movie was based on a scene that Tom Taylor and Bruno Redondo did in Injustice. So they're taking comic influences here and there, but for a lot of people that isn't enough. And we had talked before we recorded this about Jimmy Palmiotti had tweeted something to the effect of, well, this version of Harley is based on 105 issues of the character that we wrote. Well, yeah, and maybe 10 years from now, when you have the kids that grew up reading those comics are, they want to see the version of Harley they grew up with on the screen. That'll be a great time for that. But right now, what a lot of people want to see is the version of Harley that they've known, that they've been watching on TV since the 90s.
Yeah, and I think if you read the Jimmy Palmiotti stuff and then read something like Harleen, you will truly understand the difference between the real Harley Quinn and the exploited, mass-marketed Harley Quinn. People said they changed or whatever, and it's just, you haven't seen any other character in the Gotham universe or even the DC universe that has been that dramatically changed for the sake of marketing to what they feel is the target audience. And people who grew up with her are disappointed in that. It's just
and there's this weird thing that has been happening with characters like Harley, and we got it with Huntress in the Birds of Prey movie, Black Canary in the Birds of Prey movie, Cassandra Cain also, that none of them use their comic appearances. None of them are using any of their classic looks. But would we ever see a Superman movie or a Batman movie or even a Wonder Woman movie, a Green Lantern movie, anything where, well, no, we didn't put their costume on him. At no point did Superman put on, the tights and cape in this movie, but we put him in some fun outfits, and look, his belt buckle has, so that's how he's Superman. You would never see that done with. There's never going to be a Batman movie where he doesn't wear the bat suit. It's understood that it's such a part of his character that it's the first thing that people wait to see when there's a new iteration of a movie coming up, or even just a new movie in a series. The first thing people wait to see is the bat suit. First thing people want to see when there's a new Superman movie is, let's see this new guy in the Superman suit. But when we have, why is it when there's a Suicide Squad movie or a Birds of Prey movie, well, let's see what kooky outfits we're going to get Harley in this movie, because it's not going to be her jester suit.
Yeah, and it's a shame. I think the way to do it, I hope in the future, like if you look at Mondo's Harley Quinn statue, where she's laying on the carpet and she's listening to records.
Waiting for J-Man.
Yeah, that it looks like an actual woman in that jester suit. And I envision how that would look in a really good movie with Harley Quinn done right. It would be amazing. And you guys, if you Google it, the Mondo Harley Quinn statue, you'll see what I'm talking about. So our listeners, but
not to just to show that we're not completely bashing this. Like, sure, there are some people that love this Birds of Prey movie, love these versions of characters. Cool, that's awesome. That's awesome you enjoy that. But there's a lot of room for the classic takes on the characters too.
I mean, like I said, I think Margot Robbie's talents were kind of... I think she could have been put in in a much better script and a much better setting with much better classic Harley outfits, and just they could have pushed the potential of Harley Quinn with her for beyond, because she is a very skilled actress, but that's Hollywood, and now we're getting another Suicide Squad movie. I don't know why we keep getting Suicide Squad movies.
Well, I think this one is sort of meant to, I don't know, it's not a reboot, but I don't know. It'll be interesting to see how much they ignore the previous one, because James Gunn is doing this one, and Harley is back in it. It's still Margot Robbie, but she has a very different look than in Suicide Squad or Birds of Prey.
Yeah.
So it'll be cool to see what tone of Harley he uses in this movie. If she's going to be the the version we've seen so far in the movies, or what he's going to do, if he's going to go darker with her.
I mean, I think the train's left the station after that last movie. I feel like it'd be cool to see like Harley in the Matt Reeves universe on that level. That would be really, or like maybe even Todd Phillips doing like a Harleen adaptation would be mind blowing. But this whole segment, we just wanted to discuss like how nice it would be to see some creators, how get her back to her roots, and just especially in the source material, so maybe it can be applied to the big screen one day. But creative decisions are made, and you got to focus on the good, or focus on what you like. And for us, it's like versions of her in White Knight, or Harleen, or even the Case File story with Black Label. Just different interesting takes. So but the good news is she's one of the few that this has happened to. All the other characters still be intact, especially Two-Face, man. Definitely grab Detective Comics 1020 at your local comic shop today on Wednesday, February 26th, 2020. We are in the future. But anyway, guys, that'll do it for another episode of Bat Force Radio. Please rate, review, subscribe, follow, love, hug, tell your friends, all that good shit. Got a lot more things in the pipeline for Bat Force Radio.
And now we're on Spotify, iTunes, SoundCloud, and on YouTube. We're slowly adding up
the archives.
I threw on three more episodes up on the YouTube today. So whenever there's time, I'm throwing some of the classic popular guest episodes up.
Yeah,
and then we'll have all the new stuff coming up there as well.
Yeah, we're in the process of navigating and growing on YouTube, but we got a lot more expansion plans for 2020, and definitely bringing you some content you can only get from us, especially with future guests coming on the show. That's going to be pretty exciting.
Next month's going to be fun.
Yeah, we got a lot of we got some heavy hitters coming on. So anyway, guys, Bat Force Radio out.
Hey, Gotham dwellers. Make sure to stop everything right now and subscribe to Bat Force Radio. We can be found on iTunes and SoundCloud. Don't miss out. Guaranteed to satisfy all of your Batman and DC needs.